Hey, welcome back to Community Health Paramedicine. This is going to be Chapter 20. This one is focusing on nutrition. So we're going to jump into our slides here. We know people choose the foods they eat for various reasons. Rarely do people choose foods solely in an effort to provide their bodies with the most efficient, healthful fuel sources available, because that would just make way too much sense. So preparing and sharing food is deeply important in many other cultures as well. It could be a way of showing love for one's family, serves as an important part of social interaction. Unfortunately, in today's hectic world, many of us have developed rather unhealthy eating habits. That's the American way. Eating healthy, maintaining a body weight that is healthy, and being physically active are instrumental in improving quality of life. Older adults may not eat well due to numerous reasons. They may not have access to the foods that they need. And people with chronic diseases may have specific dietary needs that may or may not be met as well. The community paramedics role, our goal is to kind of raise the bar a little bit. So the challenge in educating people to use nutrition to improve their health is to provide straightforward, useful information without being insulting or intimidating, which can be a hard balance. Our goal is to understand nutrition is to be more than just the exercise and memorization. So we're trying to educate them the same way that we would educate them on their drug dosages and the medications that we need to be taking or they need to be taking. Our goal is to educate them on what they are actually putting into their bodies. So guidance from the U.S. government has evolved over the years to reflect a better understanding of basic nutrition and changes in lifestyle, with the goal being to ensure good health across the entire lifespan. The current version of the USDA guidelines, or the Dietary Guidelines for Americans for 2015 through 2020, focuses on the need for many Americans to select more nutrient-dense foods and beverages into their daily diet. So the guidelines emphasize the following. So following a healthy eating pattern, which includes eating at a calorie level to achieve and maintain a healthy body weight, support nutrient adequacy, and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. We need to focus on a variety here, nutrient dense as well as the amount of food needed to meet nutrient needs within all the food groups within the calorie limit. It's not an easy battle. We need to limit our sugars, limit our saturated fats and unnecessary sodium, and try and shift to healthier food and beverages choices. It can be as simple as just cutting out one soda a day until eventually getting all sodas out of everyone's diet in a 24-hour period. Support healthy eating patterns is key for all of us in all phases of our lives. So for our balance of food, it should look something like this. So we need to have carbohydrates, protein, those fats, vitamins, minerals, fibers, as well. It needs to be a balance as well as the calories that we consumed, that we spend throughout activity throughout the day. The USDA does currently define 5 food groups. That would be fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy, and protein. Although not a food group, oils are recommended for their nutritional value and are found in foods such as nuts, fish, olives, avocados, cooking oils, and salad dressings as well. Our nutritional components of food. Nutrients are the chemicals in the food that are essential for life. The diet for normal human growth and development and maintenance requires 45 essential nutrients. A lot of people just get these nutrients nowadays from taking vitamins over the counter instead of our food, but our body has a more difficult time processing these. Deficiency in a nutrient for a length of time can result in negative health outcomes, such as a lack of iron can result in anemia. Other substances in food may not fit the definition of nutrients, but are also beneficial to the body, such as fiber, which can enhance digestion, or our phytochemicals, which can function as antioxidants, which may reduce the risk of heart disease and cancer by combining with other naturalizing free radicals. There are 6 classes of nutrients. We'll start with our macronutrients. That's our carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that we need in rather large quantities. Our micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals that we only need small quantities. Water, which we know is very important. Our carbohydrates are one of our macronutrients. So made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, commonly described as starches or sugars. They can be found in fruits, grains, vegetables, legumes, such as dry beans and peas. There are 2 types of carbohydrates. Our simple carbohydrates, those are our sugars, such as glucose, fructose, and our complex carbohydrates, which are starches, our glycogen, and our fiber. Lipids are one of them. That's our fats. These are organic compounds that contain carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. They're naturally occurring lipids or fats are found in meat and some dairy products, some plants, as well as the healthy avocados, olives, and coconuts. And types of lipids would be our triglycerides, phospholipids, and our sterols as well. These are key building blocks that may be attached to a triglyceride or present as a free compound. So they determine the characteristics of a fat and provide flavors to certain foods like butter. Our non-essential fatty acids are made by the body. Essential fatty acids are provided from food. Our things like omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9 fatty acids can be burned as energy and used to synthesize new compounds. Triglycerides, these consist of 3 fatty acids attached to a molecule or a glycerol. Rich and efficient source of calories as well are the triglycerides. Excess dietary fat, so this is fat that is not immediately used to provide energy needed by the body. It's intended to hold us over during times of caloric deficit and stored in our fat or our adipose tissue. So we hide it for later. Our lipoproteins, very low density. Lipoprotein is a triglyceride-rich compound formed in the liver and intestines. Our VLDL gradually releases triglycerides to the body cells. Diets high in saturated and trans fat stimulate the release of VLDL and triglycerides from the liver. Immediate density lipoprotein, or IDL, is approximately 40% triglycerides. These compounds acquire cholesterol from high-density lipoprotein as the HDL travels through the bloodstream and then returns to the liver, where the liver cells convert the IDL to low-density lipoprotein, or the LDL. Trans fatty acids raise our LDL levels and reduce our HDL levels, a combination that may increase the risk for atherosclerosis as well as heart disease. Conversely, our HDL protects against our atherosclerosis and our heart disease by picking up cholesterol released by the dying cells and arterial plaques, thereby preventing their accumulation. So you hear HDL is good, LDL is bad when you go in for your doctor's visits. Lipids are an important consideration when discussing dietary needs with your patients. Current recommendations from the AHA stress consumption of 2 servings of oily fish such as tuna or salmon each week. Proteins, they're critical for good health. They transport oxygen, vitamins, and minerals to target cells. They act as enzymes to catalyze chemical reactions, and they also act as hormones that serve as chemical messengers for regulatory functions. Our maintain fluid in our acid-base balance as well. The proteins do that, and they serve as components of the antibodies that support immune functions. Proteins are organic compounds composed of smaller building blocks called amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids. 9 are considered essential amino acids and must be provided through the diet. You cannot take a supplement to get these. Proteins build and maintain body structures, regulate body processes, provide energy, replace skin cells, and keep hair, skin, and nails healthy through the production of collagen and keratin. If there's not enough protein, the body will break down muscle to access our stored protein, which can cause wasting of organs and other tissues to occur. Excessively high protein levels can contribute to kidney problems, osteoporosis, heart disease, obesity, gout, as well as some cancers have been linked to this. Our micronutrients, let's start with our vitamins. These are organic compounds that contain carbon and hydrogen, and in some cases, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and other elements. The role of vitamins is to regulate body processes such as blood clotting and calcium balance, and generally act to keep organs and tissues functioning and in balance as well. Vitamins do not yield energy directly, but have roles in the extraction of energy from fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Types of vitamins would be our fat-soluble, vitamins A, D, E, and K. These accumulate in the tissues and can be stored in the body indefinitely. Our water-soluble, which is vitamin C, 8 B vitamins, folate, our, can't even pronounce that one, pantothenic acid, and biotin. These are filtered by the kidneys and excreted in our urine. Unlike fat-soluble vitamins, our water-soluble vitamins do not need lipoprotein carriers to actually enter our cells. Minerals, so simple inorganic substances, at least 16 of which are essential to our health, are macrominerals needed in relatively large quantities as compared with other minerals. Those would be sodium, potassium, and calcium. Along with that, we've got chloride, phosphorus, and magnesium. Our microminerals, these are small quantities that we need to maintain our health. Those are your iron, zinc, copper. Manganese are molybdenum, selenium, iodine, as well as fluoride. On to our water. Our water is the most essential nutrient. The human body is nearly 60%. As an adult, for pediatrics, it's about 80%. Water in the body includes dissolved minerals called electrolytes. Each cell must have the right mix of water and electrolytes to survive. If you're listening to this right now, go get a cup of water and chug water. You are probably dehydrated. Most humans are. Our water's roles include temperature control, lubrication of joints, transport of nutrients and waste, facilitation of metabolism, as well as maintenance of our acid-base balance. Dehydration occurs when the body does not have enough water. Chronic dehydration can lead to constipation, hypertension, heart disease, glaucoma, and diabetic complications. Water intoxication occurs when a person overhydrates beyond the kidney's ability to eliminate the excess water. Particularly a problem when a person rehydrates with large quantities of water and no electrolytes. This is very common, actually more common than people really know. Components of a well-balanced diet for a healthy adult. So the template for good nutrition relies on two basic concepts. Maintain calorie balance over time to achieve and sustain a healthy weight. Focus on consuming nutrient-dense foods and beverages. The goal is to effect a gradual change by decreasing calorie intake and increasing caloric expenditure. To make better choices, we need to pay more attention to the packaged foods we buy or invest in preparing our own. If we can, educate our clients and our patients about this as well. Helping them achieve good nutritional health includes 3 guiding principles. First, ensure all patients have access to nutritious food and opportunities for physical activity. Second, facilitate individual behavior through helping the patient to implement the nutritionist food plan. And third, set the stage for lifelong healthy eating, physical activity, and weight management behaviors. So let's talk about digestion and absorption issues. So these influences and issues. So once chewed and swallowed, food is broken down in the GI system. Nutrients are extracted and the rest is eliminated as waste. At any step in this process, patients can have problems with eating, swallowing, digestion, nutrient extraction, or elimination that interferes with their proper nutrition. Influence on digestion and absorption also includes psychological influences, chemical imbalances, bacterial influences. Some digestion and absorption also includes constipation. This is often caused by diets low in fiber and water and high in fat, which is very common in American society. Diarrhea can be caused by stress, intestinal irritation, or lactose intolerance. Gas, indigestion as well, heartburn, GERD, peptic ulcers, diverticulitis, IBS, as well as colorectal cancer as well. Food, drugs, and supplements. Drugs can affect the way the body uses nutrients and can alter the activity of other drugs as well. Certain foods and nutrients in turn can enhance or interfere with the effects of drugs. Some herbal vitamins or mineral supplements can also interact with prescriptions and over-the-counter drugs. As community paramedics, you need to be aware of the more common drug interactions that may affect your patients. Tylenol, when used in combination with alcohol, can cause liver toxicity. Tetracyclines should not be taken with milk, as milk decreases the absorption of these drugs. Other antibiotics such as amoxicillin, penicillin, erythromycin should not be taken with food, as drug absorption will be decreased in such a case. Warfarin, aka Coumadin, should not be taken with food rich in vitamin K, as this will the combination decreases the drug's effectiveness. The combination of alcohol and antihistamines increases the risk for drowsiness. Grapefruit juice can increase the absorption of certain antihypertensive agents. So our beta blockers, ACE inhibitors. Naproxen, also known as Aleve, should be taken with food or milk to decrease the potential for GI irritation. Ibuprofen is used with alcohol if there is an increased risk for liver damage or bleeding in the stomach. So too often patients fail to advise their doctor about the supplements they are taking or consumption of alcohol. So you may need to make a point of asking specific questions about these products during that history taking. A nutritional assessment is performed by a nutritionist under the direction of the patient's physician. Performing a nutritional assessment requires evaluating the current nutritional health of the patient, including identifying risk or deficiencies in their diet. A nutritional assessment will begin with determining if the patient is undernourished or overnourished. Food history questionnaires. Once the nutritionist has a good template of the patient's diet, it is then compared against the dietary standard to determine where they have overages or deficits, especially where the key nutrients are not being hit. So the assessment of a patient's nutritional needs should be taken into consideration. So we need to think about balance, the adequacy, nutrient density, food choices, moderation, calorie control, and the need for variety. Balance is often key. A healthy balance matches the calorie intake with the activity expenditure, so calories in versus calorie out. Nutrient density is a ratio of nutrient content to energy content as well. According to a 2014 article in the Journal of American Medical Association, 17% of children and teenagers and 35% of adults in the United States are obese. That was in 2014. That has grown dramatically since then. Age is a considerable factor in weight fluctuations. As people age, obesity increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, and some forms of cancer. Unintended weight loss may be due to frailty, disability, or illness. Being overweight or underweight can lead to an increase in morbidity and mortality. Overweight or obesity, there's many factors that are responsible for obesity. Some can be controlled and some cannot. There's genetics, lifestyle factors, all influence the tendency to gain and maintain weight. Unlike biological and genetic factors, lifestyle and behavioral factors that influence weight can potentially be altered. So lack of exercise, eating out, emotional eating, things like that. The key to a healthy eating pattern is moderation, calorie control. Counting calories is not easy for many people, but it is important. Keeping a food journal might be a great way for them to start seeing when they tend to eat more and start keeping track of those calorie counts. Our underweight patients, these patients do not have the same risk as people with obesity, except when the underweight condition is caused by being undernourished. So you may have deficiencies in vitamins, minerals, proteins that can cause fatigue, as well as compromise their immune system. Factors that can cause it could be biological, loss of appetite, not interested in eating, could be metabolic, could be hereditary, psychological eating disorders, a reaction to psychological or emotional stress, substance abuse, and underlying diseases. Alcohol use. So chronic alcohol abuse can cause exacerbated mental health disorders, may interfere with nutrient absorption, and may cause damage to the lining of the GI tract and the esophagus as well. Because excessive alcohol consumption contributes to poor eating habits and puts the patient at risk of being undernourished, it needs to be factored into the nutritional assessment by the nutritionist. So our role, the basic food plan. Written food plans can be created by the nutritionist for scheduled eating, weight change processes. The goal should be patient-driven, achievable, and evaluated often. For us, the goal is working with the patients to help make these changes. That's going to empower and motivate them. We may need to break down the nutrition breakdown for them and explain to them in detail what this looks like. Help them identify ways to help them achieve success without causing stress. Do not give them too many goals at one time. Very small, the little teeny tiny goals, those are the ones that make the big difference in the end, the big successes. Have them explain in their own words what they understand, so what they understand to assess whether you need to reinforce certain concepts with them. Preparing yourself. So before you visit the patient, be prepared with as much information as you can gather from the patient's plan of care, meetings with their health team, Medical records if permitted. You're going to want to know their patient medical diagnosis, which challenges the patients may have in terms of ability to perform activities of daily livings, the patient's medications and supplements, as well as their lifestyle. Know their attitude towards change, the goals for this patient, and recommended ways to accomplish them via the food plan. You need to understand not only what the patient eats and drinks, but whether nutritious food is available to the patient and whether the person is able to shop for and prepare these foods, or do they have barriers. So when you approach them, they may feel some initial apprehension. So as you interact with them, they may actually feel a little hostile. So we're going to have to develop the rapport, develop that trust with them. You can clarify that your role is to act as the eyes and ears of the physician and serving as part of the collaborative healthcare team that is assisting the patient to their goals or recovery. We've got to gain the patient's precipitation. That's going to require good communication based on respect, trust, and a willingness to examine lifelong assumptions about food and diet. Acknowledge and validate their feelings and help them understand that your goal is to clarify serious risks to their health and help implement a plan to mitigate these risks. Personal food preferences need to be understood to create a functional plan. On a very basic level, people choose foods based on taste, which may also incorporate smell and texture. Food choices may also reflect customs, beliefs, and habits. In particular, family and culture are often factors that define which foods a person does or does not like. Religious observances may also determine what we eat and when. Most of us are creatures of habit in terms of how frequently and at what times we eat. Another consideration is the patient's budget for food. Each food plan must be tailored to the individual patient by the nutritionist. If you discover a new piece of information while working with the patient, document this for consideration by the healthcare team. Food labels. Food labels. Teaching people to read food labels is something that is very key to success. If necessary, you guys should educate patients on how to read and understand basic food labels. Not everyone knows. Federal regulations specify what can and what cannot go on a food label and which foods are required to carry such labels. Food labels are required to include 5 elements: a statement of identity, the net contents of the package, the name and address of the manufacturer, the package or distributor, a list of ingredients, and nutritional information. They also have to include preservatives, additives, along with 8 major food allergens. That would be fish, soy, tree nuts, eggs, wheat, peanuts, milk, and crustaceans. Nutrition facts enable consumers to determine whether a product is nutritious and offers them a basis of comparison with other products. Attention should be paid to the serving size, the ingredient list, dietary daily values as well, and any health claims. Most food-related diseases are caused by microorganisms introduced by unclean hands and food on our preparation surfaces. Education on this is key. They also can be caused by insufficient cooking or failure to refrigerate foods properly. Some microorganisms may be bacteria, viruses, or even parasites. People who are young, old, or immunocompromised are also the ones that are most seriously affected. Foodborne illnesses occur when there is a pathogen, a host, and some sort of interaction between the two that results from ingestion of a particular food. Some infections are caused directly by a pathogen, others stem from a toxin produced by that pathogen. Food contamination can occur at any point from the farm or ranch to the grocery shelf to the consumer's plate. Contamination can also occur in crop fields during food processing by unsanitary food handling or during food preparation. Measures to ensure food safety include checking the expiration dates on foods and not opening cans that are bulging at the top. When shopping or cooking, make sure that your patients are separating raw, cooked food and ready-to-eat foods, reading the label of each product to ID the storage instructions, and refrigerating perishables as soon as possible to make sure our refrigerator is set on the optimal temperature as well. One of the most important steps patients can take to ensure food safety is to establish a safe and sanitary place to prepare their foods. Helping them build some simple habits can eliminate many of the risks associated with food preparation. Clean hands and cooking surfaces often, especially after handling raw foods and produce. Clean fruits and vegetables with cold water before eating. Refrigerate those foods quickly. Don't leave them out long. Defrost foods in the refrigerator instead of at room temperature. Avoid cross-contamination. Ensure food is cooked properly. Avoid using unpasteurized milk or juice, raw sprouts, and undercooked meat or poultry. Use clean surfaces and bleach areas down. These are things that we would expect people to know, but not always have they been educated on proper food handling and cooking techniques. So this might be something to add to your plan as well. Fluid balance, water. It is the essential to all of our body functions. Without it, cellular metabolism is greatly impaired. Older adults are very susceptible to this, so we have to pay very close attention to how much water they've consumed. So the reduced thirst response or kidney function could be impaired. Patients should pay attention to their fluid intake and adjust it accordingly, even when not driven by thirst. How much fluid is enough depends on the age, size, body composition, activity, as well as the weather. So a great measure for this is urine output. So is our urine color light or is it dark? How often are we also using the restroom? Factors affecting older adults and the nutritional status. Age-related changes have a direct impact on nutritional requirements. Decreased muscle mass in older adults creates a need for higher consumption of high-quality protein. Decreased immune function creates a need for increased intake of vitamin B6, antioxidants, vitamin E, zinc, and high-quality proteins as well. Increased gastric pH calls for increased vitamin D. Decreased kidney function creates a need for increased fluids. Our increased oxidative stress, potential cognitive impairment, and degenerative eye issues calls for a greater amount of antioxidants such as beta-carotene, vitamin C, and vitamin E. Slowed gastric mobility means there's also an increase for fiber that is needed. Medical conditions that affect adults' nutritional status. Assessing mental health status is very important in late adulthood. So common medical conditions that affect older adults' nutritional status are depression, which is very common, loss of appetite or anorexia, Alzheimer's, arthritis, bowel and bladder regulation issues, dental health problems, vision issues, osteoporosis, and weight issues. All of these conditions can occur in concert with chronic medical conditions, and all of them can affect the patient's ability to prepare, eat, and metabolize food. Meeting the nutritional needs of older adults can be challenging. So they could be economic factors on a fixed income. They could have social isolation, physical restrictions, or maybe they can't shop for themselves and prepare foods. For those still living independently, services such as Meals on Wheels or other senior nutrition programs can be valuable to ensure adequate nutrition. So you should be aware of the various resources that you have in your community that you connect them with. Nutritional needs of patients with chronic diseases. Dietary care should take into consideration all patient comorbidities. They may affect nutritional requirements for the individual patient. Often chronic medical conditions will involve special dietary considerations that may be new and unfamiliar to the patient. So the CP should also consider how certain foods will interact with the patient's prescription medications and over-the-counter supplements. Diabetes. So according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 29.1 million people have diabetes. And of those 29.1 million, 8.1 million are still undiagnosed. Stress, illness, obesity, the lack of exercise, and a history of gestational diabetes increases the risk of developing diabetes in the future. But the most certain predictive factor is family history. The typical Western diet, which contains too much fat and not enough fruits, vegetables, and fiber, raises a person's risk of developing diabetes. Exacerbated by the lack of exercise, which is common. In particular, the risk of developing type 2 diabetes increases with weight gain, and the most significant factor in risk reduction is weight loss. Regular exercise does improve carbohydrate and lipid metabolisms, lowers the blood pressure, and reduces the risk of heart disease. People with diabetes need to closely monitor their food intake. Well-balanced meals and the right amount is going to help maintain healthy glucose blood levels. With diabetes, it is important to monitor how one eats as much as what they are eating. consistent calorie and carbohydrate intake help keep our blood glucose from spiking or dropping. Some challenges could be patients who have type 1 diabetes, so maybe caused by the long-term effects of diseases such as you could have blindness, nerve damage, amputations that result from diabetes. Older adults with diabetes may also have chronic diseases such as renal insufficiency, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and heart disease. These comorbidities create a challenge for us when we're trying to address nutritional issues related to all of these different disease states. Some patients with chronic diabetes may have cognitive and memory issues or may be depressed. So encourage and support healthy eating habits while honoring the dietary preferences of the patient. For patients with type 1 diabetes, the best management principles include healthy eating, physical activity, insulin by injection, and closely monitoring our blood glucose concentration. Patients with type 2 diabetes can benefit from healthy eating, physical activity, blood glucose testing, and weight control, which is the single one most important factor. In general, as a CP working with patients with diabetes, you should address their nutritional needs based on personal and cultural preferences, access to food options, and the willingness that they have to make those behavioral changes. COPD, some recommendations is to keep up their energy. So both conditions obstruct airflow into and out of the lungs as a result of the loss of elasticity or inflamed airways that may also be clogged with mucus. So our goal, nutritional goals for the patients with emphysema, so these revolve around providing adequate energy to minimize unwanted weight loss and a loss of lean body mass and prevent malnutrition. Their high energy needs can be met by following that healthy and balanced diet. Patients with chronic bronchitis have excessive mucus secretions, which can compromise breathing and lung capacity. Their nutritional goals should be aimed at keeping the patient at a healthy weight, which will help to facilitate breathing and prevent malnutrition. So these patients should eat 3 regular balanced meals, but reduce snacking and making vegetables a large part of each meal. If they need a snack, make it fruit. Reduce intake of sugary and fatty foods. Our goal should be to deter weight gain and gradually lose the excess weight. For patients who occasionally depend on oxygen, it might be beneficial to wear a cannula while eating, as both eating and digestion require extra oxygen. When patients with COPD experience exacerbation of their disease, the following measures have been helpful. Instead of eating large meals, eat smaller meals more frequently. Consider softer foods that do not require much chewing. Consume nutrient-rich drinks, protein drinks, made with fortified milk. Eat slowly and chew food slowly and thoroughly to avoid swallowing air. CHF, one of the most common things that we have in Western North Carolina, usually can occur after myocardial infarction or as a result of disease or damaged heart valves. Coronary artery disease or chronic hypertension also can cause it. Nutritional needs, so we need to increase energy. Our heart needs more food nutrients. So the heart and lungs, along with potential decrease in food intake secondary to early fatigue, and commonly lead to protein malnutrition in patients with heart failure. So basically, CHFers don't eat enough protein. This combination can also lead to weight loss. The diet should include sufficient calories to maintain a healthy weight and should provide the protein needed for energy. The most important nutritional care goals are to ensure adequate protein and monitor sodium and fluid intake, especially for patients with CHF. We are almost done, guys. CHF is a heart problem, so we know we want to follow the recommendations for a heart-healthy diet. So lowering fat and cholesterol, avoiding fatty cuts of meat, fried foods, eating more fish, using fat-free and low-sodium milk and dairy products, eating mostly whole grains, cereals, and breads, using canola or olive oil, and limiting the use of mayonnaise, margarine, butter, sour cream, things like that. So prefer consumption of poultry, fruits, green leafy vegetables, whole grains, legumes, flaxseed, canola oil, as well as soybeans and nuts. Mental health. I believe we are closing with this. Mental health disorders are common in the United States. In some cases, a mental health disorder is the primary condition. In other cases, they coexist with other illnesses. So an example, a patient who is suffering from depression because of debilitating health conditions such as COPD. Nutrition needs. Omega-3 fatty acids may reduce the severity of some mental health conditions such as Alzheimer's, depression, and bipolar disorder. Our folate supplementation, in addition to medication, has been found to help reduce symptoms in patients with depression, bipolar disorder, as well as schizophrenia. So, challenges: people living with mental illnesses may also be living with substance abuse disorder. As CPs, you may not be able to change that behavior, but you should be aware of the nutritional deficiencies and medical conditions associated with abuse and specific substances, or of these specific substances. If the substance abuse causes periods of altered behavior, the patient may be unwilling or unable to stop, prepare food, and pay attention to nutritional needs. Although medications for mental disorders are helpful, their side effects can be problematic and may have implications for the patient's diet as well as nutritional status. So consult a medication reference guide to see if there are any potential food interactions with medications that your patients are taking. So patients with special diets, I guess we're ending with this one. So reasons for special diets include personal preferences like vegetarianism or veganism, religion that may dictate it, management of diseases, food allergies, and weight management. People may become vegetarian because they have an aversion to eating animal products, could be religious, an environmental concern, or meat may not be available, or they believe a vegetarian diet is helpful. There are also subgroups of vegetarians, which are lacto-ovo-vegetarians, vegans, fruitarians. Our Mediterranean diets could be similar diets to that as well. Vegetarian diets are beneficial in that they are low in fat and cholesterol and high in magnesium and folate. Fresh fruits and vegetables provide higher amounts of antioxidants as well as dietary fiber, and there are phytochemicals. So make sure that our vegans are getting our supplements. So they are adding zinc, calcium, vitamin D, riboflavin, iron, vitamin B as well. So if they're not getting it from their food, then they need to make sure that they are finding some supplements to balance them out. Alternative sources of nutrients. So recommendations for vegetarians include specific amounts of grains, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and other protein-rich foods. Those people who eat eggs and the dairy products can more easily meet their need for protein. Vegans who eat a variety of grains, vegetables, and legumes may also meet the protein requirements as well. So besides choosing a variety of food, other recommendations include choosing whole, unrefined foods and avoiding sweetened, fatty foods altogether. I know that was a lot. Thanks for bearing with me. We only have a couple more of these H5P videos and then you guys are done. As always, please reach out if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or feedback.